Hey everyone, this video is going to help you out with your third composition assignment. And this video might be a little bit longer than they normally are, but that's because I'm going to walk you through basically the entire composition process. So just as a reminder, there are actually instructions for this composition project on page 78 of your textbook, so feel free to follow along there. A couple things I want to do before I actually get started. Number one, I'm going to pull up my piano and I'm just going to hit P on my keyboard. Cool. Okay, so there's my piano. And the other thing I want to do is actually, I'm going to go to View, Play Panel, and I'm going to increase my tempo a bit just so when I play back my composition, it's not like painfully slow. Okay, so all set up here. Now, the first thing I want to go over is the fact that this is going to be a 32 measure piece. And instead of just writing 32 measures of music, we're going to think about it in chunks, sort of the same way that if you were writing a paper, you wouldn't just write the whole paper, ideally. You're thinking through your sections, right? First, I'm going to write my introduction paragraph. I need a thesis statement. I need to write my body paragraphs, conclusion paragraph. So we're going to think about the composition project the same way. And we're only going to focus on 4 to 8 measures of music at once. So we're going to start with the first 8 measures, and the best way I think to go about doing this is to think through the rhythm that you want first. So a lot of music is actually really rhythmically driven, and if you were to just hear like rhythm from a piece of music, oftentimes you'd be able to recognize it even without hearing the melody. So I'm going to choose, I'm just going to kind of compose a rhythm, and I'm going to start on C. So we'll do, let's see. All right, so I want, and let's see. Okay, so here's my rhythm so far. And that's a little fast. Okay, so that's my rhythm so far, and now I'm actually just going to use the same exact rhythm for my next 4 measures. So this is going to be what makes up my A section, these 8 measures of music. Okay, and again we have, okay, so it doesn't sound too exciting when it's just one note, but we're going to add a melody. So one way to do it is to open up, like if you have a piano app on your phone and you can kind of pluck out a melody, you can also just use the piano that's down here too. And I would suggest just kind of like messing around with your pentatonic scale and see what works best. So I'm just going to kind of move up the scale. So something like. Okay. Okay, so here's what I've come up with for the first 4 measures. Okay, so notice that there's a nice contour, right? It sort of like gradually rises and then comes back down. And one thing you want to do here is you want to be sure to end on a long note. So each of your 4 measures should end in a long note, and that's what makes it sound like the end of a phrase. It sort of makes you pause for a second while you're holding that note. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this exact same melody into my next 4 measures, except this time I want the end to sound more final, right? When we came down here, that doesn't sound final. What we want to have happen is to come back down to C, our starting note. So instead, this time, I'll keep the first part. And then I'm going to change the end. Just a bit. And here's what I get. Okay, so our first 4 measures are related to our second 4 measures. We have long sustained notes at the end of each of those 4 measures, and the first time it doesn't sound quite as final, and the second time we come back down to C and it sounds final. Okay, so good enough. And notice your rhythm doesn't have to be extremely intricate. We've been using a lot of dotted eighth notes and sixteenths and ties, and feel free to do that in your composition assignment, but more isn't necessarily always better. So start with a bit of a simpler rhythm, and then if you want to make it really fancy, go ahead and do that. So now, before we think about, we already have 8 measures, we need 32 measures. So we're going to think in our next 8 measure chunk. So I'm going to compose a B section. So let's go ahead and label this A, because we know that's what it is. You can go up to add text rehearsal mark, or just use Command M. And I'm just going to add in A, because this is our A section. Okay, so now focusing on the B section, I sort of like this dotted quarter to eighth, bum, 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 bum. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to take this measure and just sort of turn it around. So instead of quarter, quarter, dotted quarter, eighth, I'm going to start dotted quarter, eighth, quarter, quarter. So that'll be a nice way to connect those two together. So let's see. Let's do dotted quarter, eighth, quarter, quarter. And I'm just going to keep going with quarter notes. Quarter, 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 quarter. And then let's do dotted quarter, eighth, quarter, 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 and then half note, because I want to end with a long sustained note. Okay, so now my rhythm sounds like this. So again, I still have that dotted quarter eighth sound, but it's a little bit different here. Okay, so that's my first 4 measures. My second 4 are going to be the same rhythmically. And now I want to figure out a melody. So I started on C in the A section. I'm going to go down a little bit just to kind of increase my range, add a little variety. So instead of starting on C, I'm going to start on A. And then just kind of mess around with the piano and see what sounds good. Oh, okay, that's nice. Okay, so I went. So, and then I did the same thing. Copy paste this. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum. Then I went down to E. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so here's my first line of my B section. Okay, so I'm going to do basically the same thing. Copy and paste this into the second 4 measures, but I want to change the ending a little bit, right? So I want it to do something a little bit different. Okay, instead of going back down, maybe I'll come back up. Okay, so that sounds like this. You know what, I actually don't like the fact that it ends on C here because it sounds like really final, like the piece could end there. I'm going to go ahead and make it end on D because that will lead me back into my A section. So instead I'm going to do this, and that sounds like this. I want to end there. There we go. So here we go. Cool, and that leads us nicely back into our other section. So now you have an A section and you have a contrasting B section. So different ways that you can put together your piece of music now. You can have A, in which case you just copy and paste these phrases and you're basically done. You can also do A, B, which is what I'm going to do. And it's actually going to be A, B prime because, again, I want that ending to sound different. So I have A, B, and I'm just going to copy my A section. Here's another A section, so I'm going to label this. And then I need my B section. All right, let's label this B. So right now it's actually B because I haven't changed it, but I'm going to make it B prime in a second. Okay, so there's B. Now here's what I meant by I like the fact that this leads back into the A section. If I left this note right here as C, it would sound really final, but instead, here's what it sounds like leading right back into the A section. All right, so right back in there. But the same way this leads us back to A by going, we want the end of the piece to sound more final, right? We want to end on our C because C is what makes it sound really final. So here we go. Let's see. So instead of, I'm going to end it just on C's. All right. So here is what my entire piece sounds like from the very beginning. A, B, A, and now B prime because I changed that ending a little bit. All right, here we go. That's it. That's the end of the piece. Awesome. So it might take you guys a little bit longer than it took me. Done this for a few quarters, and yeah, it's a little bit faster once you've done this a couple times. But just take your time. Again, first thing to do is just figure out the rhythm that you want to use, and then build your phrases, right? Think about them in little 4 measure chunks. So your A section is 4 measures, followed by another 4 measures that are related to the first four, and then put that melody back in. If you look on page 83 of your textbook, you can see the rubric that we're going to use to grade these. And we're using the same rubric for your A section and your B section. And the first part is there a distinctive rhythm that ends in a long note? And for this one, the answer is yes. We have bum 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 bum. So there's a rhythm that we recognize and it ends in a long note. Is there a clear contour, right? We kind of gradually go up and then we go back down. We don't have a static kind of everything hovering around C, D, E the entire time. And it also doesn't jump all over the place, right? Notice that I used a lot of stepwise motion here. A good rule is to imagine that you have to sing the melody back to yourself. And if it ends up being really difficult, that's a hint to yourself that it's probably not the best melody. So focus mostly on steps here. Another part of the rubric is, do the second 4 measures relate to the first four? And in our case, yes, we have the exact same rhythm. We have the same first 2 measures, and then I've just changed the ending. Same thing for the B section. We have a clear contour. We end with a long sustained note in both lines. We have a distinct rhythm, and the first four are related to the second four. Now for the whole piece, we're looking at, did you label your form? So here we have A, B prime. And then the last part is, does it sound musical? Does it actually sound like a piece of music? And if you follow the steps in the book and the steps that I just went over, more likely than not, you'll get something that sounds like music. But again, take your time with it, play around on the keyboard down here and try to come up with, what you think is the most catchy melody.